Have you ever sat staring at a blank screen, knowing exactly what you need to do, feeling the deadline pressing down on you, and yet your body simply refuses to move? You want to do the task. You're screaming at yourself to just start typing, just make the phone call, just fold that pile of laundry that's been sitting on your chair for 3 weeks. But you can't. And then comes that familiar voice in your head telling you, you're just lazy, undisciplined, broken. Why is something so easy for everyone around you so impossibly hard for you? Here's the truth nobody told you. This experience, this physical inability to start something you genuinely want to do, has nothing to do with laziness. Calling yourself lazy might be the biggest lie you've ever been sold. A lie handed to you by a world that simply doesn't understand how your brain works. In the next few minutes, you're going to see the hidden pattern behind adult ADHD, and it's going to change the way you understand your own willpower. You'll finally see the real reason your brain freezes you in place, and why every planner and productivity trick has failed you over and over again. By the end, you might stop fighting your own mind, and start seeing the strange kind of strength hidden underneath your exhaustion. But before we get into the neuroscience of why you feel paralyzed, we need to talk about the label you've probably carried your whole life. The chronic procrastinator. For years, people have looked at you from the outside and reached a simple conclusion. They see the unfinished projects, the lateness, the messy desk, the tasks left until the very last second, so they give you advice that sounds helpful and does nothing. Buy a planner, make a to-do list and stick to it. Just apply yourself, just try harder. And the painful part is, you believed them. You bought the planners. You downloaded the apps. You went to bed swearing tomorrow would be different, that tomorrow you'd finally get your life together and act like a normal adult. Then tomorrow comes, and the same invisible wall is waiting. You sit down, and instead of opening that important spreadsheet, you fall into a 3-hour rabbit hole about medieval architecture. Or you suddenly decide you absolutely must organize your photos from 5 years ago. And the guilt is crushing, because you're convinced this is a moral failing. You think you're missing some basic piece of discipline that everyone else was born with. But here's what you need to hear. Laziness is a choice. It's deciding not to bother because you don't care about the outcome. A truly lazy person sits on the couch doing nothing and feels fine about it. No guilt, just rest. What you feel is the opposite of rest. Your mind is racing. You're stressed, anxious, practically begging your brain to cooperate. You care so much it physically hurts. That isn't laziness. It's a neurological roadblock. It's something called executive dysfunction. And understanding that difference is the first real step to getting your life back. So let's look at what's actually happening inside your head when you hit that wall. To understand that wall, we have to look at the physical structure of your brain. For years, I was sure I was just broken. I'd watch coworkers sit down, open their laptops, and start typing like it was nothing. It looked like magic to me. I thought they had some kind of moral strength I was missing. But the real difference is physical. Right behind your forehead sits a region called the prefrontal cortex. Think of it as the conductor of an orchestra. The conductor doesn't play the instruments and doesn't write the music. The only job is to tell the violins when to come in, tell the trumpets when to stop, and shape the whole thing into something that works. In most people, that conductor is awake, baton in hand, ready to lead. They look at a messy room, and the conductor says, "Start with the laundry, then the trash, then the floor," and the body just follows. But with the hidden pattern of adult ADHD, the conductor is asleep at the podium. You still have the whole orchestra. Your brain is full of talented musicians, your skills, your intelligence, your creativity, but nobody's directing them. So when you look at that messy room, every instrument starts playing at once. The laundry, the trash, the dust, the unpaid bills, the unread emails. It's a wall of noise. That's executive dysfunction. It's not that you can't do the tasks. It's that your brain can't decide where to begin, so it shuts down and does nothing, just to protect itself from the overwhelm. But why is the conductor asleep? That comes down to a chemical called dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the reward chemical, the little hit of pleasure when you eat chocolate or win a game. But when it comes to getting things done, dopamine is really the chemical of motivation and anticipation. It's the starter fluid in an engine. In a typical brain, just imagining the finish line, knowing how good a clean kitchen will feel, releases enough dopamine to turn the key. The body gets the fuel it needs to start moving. In an ADHD brain, that motivation system seems to work differently. Researchers believe the brain handles dopamine in a way that leaves it harder to summon on demand. So when you think about washing the dishes, your brain reaches for that spark to get you going, and the tank reads empty. You can yell at yourself, you can cry, you can threaten yourself, but with no starter fluid, the engine just won't turn over. It isn't about willpower, it's chemistry. But if your brain struggles to produce the fuel to get started, how have you survived this long? How did you graduate, hold a job, pay your rent? The answer is the most exhausting coping mechanism you've probably been running your entire life. And it's going to sound painfully familiar. If you can't generate dopamine to start the engine, your body finds another fuel, and that fuel is panic. Meet the second person in this hidden pattern. The panic worker. When a deadline is 2 weeks away, it doesn't feel real. It lives somewhere in an abstract future your brain can't quite touch, so no fuel gets made. You sit there frozen, fully aware of what's coming, completely unable to move. Then the clock runs down. It's 11 o'clock at night, and the project is due at 8 in the morning. And suddenly a wave of fear crashes over you. Fear of getting fired. Fear of humiliation. Fear of failing. That fear lights up your amygdala, the oldest survival part of your brain. Your body stops treating this like a work task and starts treating it like a predator in the dark. In response, your body floods your bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline is rocket fuel. It bypasses the sleeping conductor, kicks the door in, and jump-starts the whole orchestra at once. Suddenly you have laser focus. You type like a machine. You pull together 2 weeks of work in 6 brutal hours. You hit submit at 7:59 in the morning. You survive. People look at the result and call you brilliant. They have no idea it was made in a state of pure terror. I used to run on that panic cycle for everything. I told myself it was just my creative process. I told myself I work best under pressure. But that's a lie I needed to stop telling myself. You don't work best under pressure. You just can't seem to work without it. And using fear as your daily fuel comes at a real cost. Adrenaline and cortisol are built for rare emergencies, not for answering emails and doing laundry. Running on them every single day slowly wears your nervous system down. Using panic to do the dishes is like using a blowtorch to light a candle. It works, but it scorches everything around it. That's why you're tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. That's why one weekend is never enough to recover. You're not just tired from working. You're worn out from triggering your fight or flight response over and over just to do ordinary things. So, you've got a brain that ignores ordinary motivation and only answers to emergencies. Does that mean it's defective? Not at all. It might mean you're carrying around a kind of wiring that's incredibly powerful, as long as you stop trying to run it like everyone else's. Let me show you what I mean. The best description of the adult ADHD brain I've ever heard comes from the psychiatrist Edward Hallowell. He says you have the engine of a Ferrari, but the brakes of a bicycle. Sit with that for a second. Most productivity advice assumes you're driving a sensible, reliable sedan. A planner works beautifully for a sedan. You map the route, you cruise at a steady 60 miles an hour, you arrive on time, but you're not in a sedan. You're strapped into a race car. Your engine is enormous. Your capacity for fast thinking, pattern spotting, creative leaps, and solving problems sideways is staggering. You see, connections other people walk right past. Your brain is fast. Blindingly fast, but there's a flaw in the build. The steering is loose, and the brakes can barely hold. The prefrontal cortex, the part that's supposed to slow you down, pause, prioritize, and change gears, is the bicycle brake. So you've got this roaring engine of potential, but you can't easily control when it starts, where it goes, or how to stop it once it's moving. Try to slam bicycle brakes on a Ferrari at full speed, and they just burn up. That's why forcing yourself to sit still, make a list, and go one item at a time feels physically painful. You're trying to squeeze a race car into a traffic jam. Here's how it shows up in real life. You walk into the kitchen for a glass of water. On the way, you notice a picture frame hanging crooked. You straighten it, and then you see the shelf is dusty. You go looking for a cloth, Find a book you lost months ago, sit down to read a page, and 3 hours later, you're standing there incredibly thirsty because you never got the water. From the outside, you look scattered and undisciplined. Inside, your Ferrari engine is just taking every exit at full speed because your brakes can't stop the momentum of a new idea. Every little thing feels equally urgent. The real tragedy of this hidden pattern isn't the wiring itself. It's the shame you pile on yourself, trying to pretend you're a sedan. From the day you walked into school, you were graded by sedan rules. Sit still, work in a straight line, focus on one boring subject for 45 minutes, then switch cleanly to the next one. And every time you failed at that, you didn't think, my brain just works differently. You thought, something is wrong with me. I'm lazy. And you carried that weight into adulthood, into your job, where you hide your panic cycles from your boss, into your relationships, where you keep apologizing for forgetting things or for interrupting because your mind is moving too fast. But you can't heal a wound by pouring salt into it. Shame doesn't fix executive dysfunction. Beating yourself up doesn't create dopamine. It just creates more stress, which freezes the prefrontal cortex even more and makes the wall thicker. The harder you punish yourself for being lazy, the less able you are to do the work. It's a loop, and it'll quietly drain the joy out of your life if you let it. But there is a way out of the loop. A way to stop running on panic and shame and start using that Ferrari engine on your own terms. To do that, we have to stop talking about what your brain can't do and start talking about its strange, almost unfair capacity to focus when the conditions are exactly right, because your brain isn't really short on attention. It's inconsistent with it. And once you understand that, everything starts to shift. So how do you start the Ferrari engine without burning out the brakes? You have to understand the third person in this pattern, the interest-driven brain. The biggest misunderstanding about ADHD is the name itself. You don't have a deficit of attention. You have a problem regulating it. A typical brain prioritizes by importance and consequences. If something matters for survival, like paying taxes, it produces the dopamine to get it done. Your brain doesn't run on importance. It runs on interest, novelty, challenge, and urgency. Some clinicians, like Dr. William Dodson, describe it as an interest-based nervous system. When you find something that truly fascinates you, something remarkable happens. The sleepy conductor wakes up, grabs the baton, and pulls the whole orchestra into perfect harmony. That's hyperfocus. In hyperfocus, your brain is flooded with dopamine. You drop into a state of flow so deep that you forget to eat, forget to sleep, forget the time entirely. Your Ferrari engine is finally running at full power, and you can do in 4 hours what takes someone else 4 days. Your ability to connect scattered ideas and build something original is hard to match. And there's another side to this wiring that you've probably been told to be ashamed of. Because your brain doesn't filter the world the way other brains do, you feel everything at full volume. You catch the tiny shift in someone's tone. You sense the tension in a room before a single word is spoken. Your emotions run intense and close to the surface. For years, you've heard that you're too sensitive, too much, too emotional. But that same sensitivity, when you learn to work with it instead of against it, can make you deeply perceptive, fiercely loyal, and unusually attuned to the people around you. Your brain isn't broken, it's just built differently and tuned higher than most. Getting your life back isn't about buying another planner or downloading another app to force yourself into the sedan mold. It's about rebuilding your life to run on interest instead of panic. It means handing off or automating the boring tasks that drain your tank. It means looking for work with novelty and real problems to solve, instead of slow, repetitive routine. It means turning your chores into a game so your brain finds them worth doing. And most of all, it means forgiving yourself for the days the engine just won't start. Imagine if you stopped spending most of your energy attacking yourself for not being normal. Imagine what you could do with all of that power back. What would your life look like if you stopped apologizing for how your brain works and started building a life that actually needs a high-performance engine? You're not lazy. You're a race car driver who was simply never taught how to drive on the right track. But rewiring your nervous system doesn't end here. Running on panic and shame for so long tends to leave a deeper mark, one that's quietly shaping your relationships right now. Next time, I'm going to talk about something many ADHD specialists call rejection sensitive dysphoria, and why a single, slightly cold text message can feel like a physical blow to the chest. Most people have never even heard of it, and once you understand it, you may never see your own emotions the same way again. So make sure you're subscribed and have notifications on, because the next one could save you years of unnecessary heartache.